And as you can see from these pictures, we are now beginning to see in sort of clear form the damage from yesterday's powerful windstorm. 100-mile-per-hour gusts toppling trees, leaving thousands of people in the dark. Our crews finding trees on top of cars, on top of homes. It was wild out there. Although we are getting a break from the extreme wind today, more is expected tomorrow, along with the risk of fires. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Phil Lipoff.
I'm Alexandra Lewis, and for Kim Christensen. Xcel is working to get power back on to the thousands who lost it from either wind damage or the preemptive shutoffs. Xcel's outage map shows more than 20,000 customers are still without power across Colorado this evening. 9 News reporter Evan Krugel is joining us live. Evan, some power lines that were damaged during the storm, they've been taken care of. What have you seen out there today?
Yeah, Alex, those power poles here along Highway 93 that were knocked down in the wind yesterday have been repaired. The good news is that power is back on in Golden. The bad news, it could be short-lived as Xcel prepares for potentially even stronger winds here along the foothills tomorrow. Here's what it looked like yesterday after those winds rolled through this area. Multiple power poles were snapped along Highway 93 between Boulder and Golden. Today we saw crews replacing those poles. They were reconnecting lines, and we got some new information from Xcel. They say yesterday up to 200,000 people likely lost power at some point, and around 26,000 homes and businesses were still without power as of last check today. As you mentioned, another shutoff is expected tomorrow morning. That one is expected to impact more than 60,000 people. Xcel says crews will continue working tonight to get power back on for everyone, even if it's only temporary.
We don't want any customer to be out any longer than they have to, and so if there's a customer that's out on Wednesday that's also going to be in scope for Friday, we don't want them to be without power. So we're going to work to restore them, even if that means we're going to have to de-energize that line again on Friday.
It is fairly calm out here right now, but we know that is expected to change overnight and especially into the early morning hours. Xcel says that next planned outage expected to begin as early as 5 a.m. tomorrow. Reporting live in Golden, Evan Krugel, 9 News.
All right, Evan, thanks. Everybody just hoping the weekend gets here quicker than it usually does. Appreciate it. And I don't know, I mean, I was just telling you while we were listening to Evan that last night at 11:30 there was a few gusts that came through my area that literally lifted furniture up on people's roofs and in their front porch and threw it like feet.
Some of us were here that late last night concerned about the fires in Yuma County. And so when I left here and drove I-25 around that time, it was scary. I mean, there were projectiles and debris going right down I-25, and then you get home and your windows are doing this like they're gonna blow out. So a lot of us lost sleep last night because of the wind, and I'm afraid we're not quite through it yet. We have a lull in the action, a calmer afternoon, a cooler afternoon, but we're bracing for another round of wind that's going to pick up later tonight. Temperatures today, 20 degrees cooler than yesterday, in the mid-40s, and while we're not seeing a lot of wind in downtown Denver right now, please don't let your guard down. Much improved drive on the I-70 corridor. Last night, whiteout conditions. We're seeing the wind pick up over some of the higher passes, and that will be the trend, especially around 11, 12 o'clock tonight into the wee hours of the morning. We're getting back to those gusts of 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. The base of the foothills, higher passes. Not a ton of wind here in downtown Denver, but we won't escape the wind. A fire weather warning for Denver and much of eastern Colorado going back out from 5 a.m. tomorrow through midnight tomorrow night. A high wind watch also for the foothill areas. So we're kind of right back in it again with this next little impulse coming in from the northwest. Hopefully it brings us a little more mountain snow. We loved that. And there may be a little bit of snow, but it's really going to be all about the wind. So we're in the 40s now, dropping into the 30s by about 9 o'clock. Weather headlines coming up. A look ahead to the weekend forecast. Phil can't wait for it to get here. It will be calmer and mild over the weekend, but we've got to get through the wind, the fire danger, a little more mountain snow, a lot to talk about coming up.
Kathy, thank you. Today, many students right along the Front Range didn't go to school because of those power outages Kathy's talking about. Boulder Valley School District closed all of its schools today impacted from the windstorm. 21 of 56 schools without power this morning. And at Fairview High School in Boulder, the wind actually blew out windows and a door at the school while classes were going on.
Absolutely. Definitely frightening for our students and our staff as they were going through that. And then also the idea of, having to kind of, do school without power is always a little bit tough.
District leaders are still at this hour assessing whether to cancel school tomorrow. They will notify parents a little later on today.
Right now, fire crews are working to contain 3 separate fires that sparked in Yuma County yesterday during the windstorm. Emergency managers say more than 14,000 acres were burned. Now, luckily, 2 of those fires are contained tonight. Emergency officials say one burning about 2,000 acres and the other burned 50. So far, 4 structures were impacted, including a pig barn with no livestock inside. Emergency officials say there was downed power lines reported about the same time as the fires started, while the county was experiencing very strong wind gusts. The exact cause is still under investigation.
2 men from Colorado have been charged for allegedly taking customers' money without doing any of the work that was promised. A state grand jury indicted Nathan Ballmeyer and Scott Burrell. The Attorney General's office says Billmeyer was the owner of CJR Partners, which was doing business with Sopra Solar. It's a solar energy company that helps install solar panels for homeowners and businesses. The pair is accused of taking clients' money and depositing it into Sopra's accounts, but not doing any of the work that was promised. The AG's office says the pair took in hundreds of thousands of dollars from clients. They face several felonies tonight, including theft and tax evasion.
The U.S. is taking steps towards reclassifying marijuana. President Donald Trump signing an executive order that would put marijuana in the same class of drugs like Tylenol and codeine and testosterone. Cannabis is currently classified in the same category as heroin and ecstasy. The order does not make cannabis legal nationwide. Rather, it would pave the way for the FDA to study its medicinal uses.
The U.S. government is now taking responsibility for that horrific mid-air collision over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. that happened earlier this year. The admission was in response to the first lawsuit filed by one of the families. According to the court documents, the government said it breached a duty of care to the plaintiffs and, quote, causing the tragic accident. The collision in January between an American Airlines flight and U.S. Army helicopter killed all 67 people on board both of the aircraft. The plane was carrying members of the U.S. figure skating community. It was the deadliest plane crash on American soil in more than 2 decades. Amid a slumping approval number, President Trump used his primetime speech to try to persuade a price-weary public that the country is on the right track, at least economically.
Yeah, Trump laying out what he called his policy accomplishments that will lead to more money in Americans' pockets. NBC's Yamiche Al-Sador has details from Washington.
Good evening, America.
In a primetime address, President Trump arguing that his economic policies are working for everyday Americans.
It's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress.
Some critics saying the remarks felt more like a campaign rally speech, while supporters celebrated it. Meanwhile, today's economic report says inflation fell 2.7%, but the report comes with caveats. Because of the government shutdown, it combines October and November data, and that information was gathered late, so the figure could also include retailers' steep holiday discounts.
I am bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast.
Meanwhile, the government's own numbers show prices have gone up steadily since April, with energy costs rising fast. With the holidays approaching, President Trump also announcing bonus payments for the U.S. military.
1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend.
He said U.S. troops will soon receive a check for $1,776. Last night, President Trump said the money would come from tariff proceeds, but instead, the money will come from the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill passed by Congress earlier this year. Despite the president's insistence that the public is benefiting from his policies, the latest polling shows only 39% of Americans believe the economy is working for them. Adding to the economic hardship, higher health care premiums could be on the horizon for millions of Americans on the Affordable Care Act. Though 4 House Republicans joined Democrats on a petition to force a House vote on the subsidies, but it's unclear whether that vote will take place before December 31st, when the tax credits are set to expire. Those ACA tax credits were a main sticking point in the government shutdown. Now lawmakers who want to extend them are racing to find a solution by the end of the year. Yamiche Alcindor, NBC News, Washington.